Well, happy Mother's Day again. Thank you guys for being here today. Moms, we do see you today. We do value you. So thank you, moms, specifically for making Obi-Wan a part of your weekend. And for everyone else as well, we're thankful that you're here. You could have been doing a lot of great things today, and you decided to do something important and worship God with us. So anyway, my name is Chris. I'm one of the pastors, and it's really good to have you today. And as we begin our message, I want to hear from you. We're going to be connecting about friendships a little bit here. So I want you to think about this. And again, I want to hear from you. What is something that you really like about friendships? What is something that you value about friendships? Honesty, that's a really, really good one. Someone that can be honest with you, and you know that they love you, but they're going to speak into your life because we all have blind spots, right? What's another one? Loyalty. Loyalty is a great one. You know that you can trust that person. Loyalty is huge. Someone that's by my side, maybe one or two others. Laughter. I'm so glad that someone said that one, like, right, where you're just laughing and you just don't care and they just get you. I've had times where we just looked at each other and started laughing, and everybody else is probably thinking, what's wrong with it? It's just because we know each other so well. Yeah, laughter's a really good one. How about one more? Connection, that's really good too. We don't want to go throughout life not being able to connect with anyone and just be lonely. We want to have people that are there for us. Speaking of friends, shows centered around friends can be popular, right? How many of you have heard of like How I Met Your Mother? You've heard of How I Met Your Mother before. What about this one, The Big Bang Theory? Ever heard of The Big Bang Theory? Some songs of friend shows give hints at why friendships are special. Now, if you have to help me out, okay? Because if you don't help me out, I'm going to sing the song, and I don't think you want me to sing the song. So I'm going to start the phrase, and then you have to finish it, okay? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, right? Everybody know the show. Cheers, okay. Here's another one. I'll be there for you when the rain starts to fall. What show is that? Friends, one of the most popular of all time, right? Speaking of friendships, relationships, I've had some really great friendships throughout my life that God has blessed me with. There's been times where having a friend during that really difficult moment really, really helped me. And then there was other times where it was the good season, it was the laughter, it was the special moments. And as I was preparing the message this week, I had a very unique memory that I experienced with one of my friends. And so we went off to college about 2.5 hours away from our home base. He was dating someone for several years at that point. I had just started dating this person named Robin. Anybody know Robin? The Robin that I'm talking about? And so we were trying to be courageous because there was a football weekend coming up, and oftentimes we'd go home to see them on the weekend. And there was a football game that weekend, so we were going to be courageous and not see our girlfriends for 2 whole weeks. That's 14 days, people. That's pretty tough. So we're like, yes, we can do this. We're going to go to the football game. We're going to show our school spirit. We get to that weekend, and we're like, this sucks. We just want to be with our girlfriends. We're like, man, like and we're in our room. And we're like all down, and my friend turns to me, and he says, we're actually watching a baseball game, and we're just like, man, we wish we were going home. And he's like, how about this? If this hitter who's up at the plate right now hits a home run, we're going home to see our girlfriends. Who cares about the college football game, right? And we're like, okay, yeah. So of course, now we're all intent, right? Like, okay, is he gonna hit it? I kid you not, guys. On that at bat, he hits a home run, and me and my friend are jumping up and down. We're like, yes, we're going home to see our girlfriends. It was a really, I promise you that wasn't just a pastor story. That really did happen. It was a really fun experience. Why do I bring all these things up? And we already know this, but I'm just starting with the foundation here. Friendships and relationships are really important. And as we dive into Romans 16, we're going to see that Paul spends a good chunk of it encouraging the Roman church to welcome all the people he mentions. And at first glance, it may seem like a meaningless bunch of names that really don't relate to us. Because, sometimes we read the Bible or hear a message like, well, how does it relate to us? How does it relate to us? But as Paul lists the people and shares who they are to him, it actually becomes a meaningful relational guide for us. Because again, friendships and relationships are just really important. So listen into the first verse for today in Romans 16. It says this: "Greet Ampliatus, my dear friend in the Lord." And you see this a few times in the first part of the letter that Paul mentions his friends. Notice he calls him my dear friend. He doesn't say, greet Ampliatus, someone who I barely know, right? He says, hey, this is my dear friend. What's the point? Paul didn't do life alone. He just didn't. And it's God's desire, and I think most of us know this. This is just a good reminder. It's God's desire that we wouldn't do life alone either. Now, there's lots of things that I could say why it's better to have people that you're doing life with. There's tons of things, and I even mentioned a couple in the introduction. But I really only want to say one thing for this message when it comes to friendship, and I'm going to share it through this example. Robin and I have had several times in our marriage where it was really good for her to have a friend or two to go to when we're maybe struggling through something in our relationship. And same with me, where I've had a friend or two that I could go to where we were just struggling and I needed to connect. It would not help Robin or I at all when Robin goes to her friend and shares what's going on. She's like, yeah, I really never liked him in the first place. It's time to let him go. It's time. This is proof right here, right? It's time. Or if I, go to my friend and you're like, yeah, Robin, it's always been the prima donna. It's time to just leave. That would not help us at all. We need people in our lives, even if they're like, I see you, I understand you, I know where you're coming from, but you need to go back to her now. You need to connect with her now. What's happening there? Our friends, they're there for us, but they're guiding us back to each other. How does this relate to us? It's the same with God. We need friends who will guide us to God and encourage us to plant and place our trust in and follow him when the road is unknown and the way seems very uncertain. And that not every friend needs to do this, but I have a question. Do you at least have one friend who will encourage your faith in God when the struggle gets real? And it's just like, hey, I hear you, I see you, I've been there, I hate what you're going through, but man, let's press into God. Let's go to God about this. Let's ask him for help in this area. Why is this so important? Because our relationship with God matters most. And we need to choose, notice the words, choose friends who will guide us to him. And as we continue to look at our relational guide, we'll see another type of relationship that's important for us. And Paul mentions this woman named Phoebe. Listen into what he says about her in the next verse that will be up on the screen. He says this, again, talking about Phoebe. I ask you to receive Phoebe in the Lord in a way worthy of his people, and to give her any help she may need from you. For she has been the benefactor of many people, including me. You know, what's interesting about this relational guide journey that we're on is Paul is looked at pretty highly in Christianity. He's given a lot of credit in Christianity. In fact, there's still churches today that are named after, you're like, yeah, I go to St. Paul's. I mean, he's just, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's just given a lot of credit in Christianity. And he was a great, dedicated follower of Jesus. He wrote parts of the Bible through inspiration from God. And he gave his life to share Jesus' hope and grace with others. So he did great things, but here's what's so key. Even though he got so much credit, he wasn't a lone ranger. You would think by the credit he gets that he was a lone ranger, but he wasn't. He had people who helped him. Phoebe being one of those people. And it made me wonder, as I was looking at this relational guide, maybe Paul did great things because he had help. And then I started thinking, wow, in our culture today, we surely do overvalue self-reliance. Where we look at the Paul, or whoever the hero in our eyes is, we're like, I just want to be that. I just want to be that. And oftentimes, it's the people who get help or are invested into that go farther. Just some examples. It could be someone that's on a similar career path that you are, but they're just a couple steps ahead. And it would help to have their hindsight and their wisdom, or maybe it's someone that they have a similar life stages, but they're just a little bit farther ahead where they could give wisdom to you. Or it could be that spiritual mentor. We talked about friends earlier, but sometimes it's good to have that spiritual mentor that it's like, hey, I get that what you're going through is hard, but God still loves you. God still cares. He still hears for you. God doesn't like that you're going through this. I don't know when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen, but I know God has a good plan for you. Or even getting to the place where, because we overvalue it so much sometimes, like, can we even get to a place that we can admit that we need help? In fact, whatever the example, can we admit that we need help? All of us do at times. And Paul was sharing about this woman named Phoebe that really helped him and invested into him and supported him. So the question is, who are you allowing to support you? Let's take one more look at this relational guide before moving on to other themes Paul shares. In Romans 16, he says this, Timothy, my co-worker, sends his greetings to you. So Timothy was someone Paul invested into. Paul actually, in another part of the Bible, Paul calls him a son in the faith. In fact, 2 of Paul's letters that made it into the Bible were written to Timothy. And get this, it's going to be a shocker. The names of the book are 1st and 2nd Timothy. The creativity of the Bible, it's shocking, right? I'm just having fun, of course. But these letters show Paul mentored him, and these letters can also speak into our lives. So a question, who are you mentoring? Who are you investing in? And guys, this doesn't have to be complicated. It really doesn't. Someone may just need your wisdom. They may need your hindsight. They may need to hear your perspective. Or spiritually speaking, someone may need your example of faith. They may need to see the grace you've received from Jesus lived out in your life. Or for some, they may need to see Jesus through you. See, mentoring is a way, it's not the only way, but mentoring is a way where we step beyond ourselves, where we live beyond ourselves. And just like I asked you earlier to maybe think about who's maybe a couple steps ahead of you to where you can get invested into someone help, who's maybe a couple steps behind you. You know, Pastor Julian talked about this last week about being when we're strong in an area, we have two choices. And sometimes it's strong through experience. We can be looking at someone that's maybe a couple steps behind. Oh my gosh, I can't believe they parent that way. Or, oh my gosh, they're just so, man, look at their faith. It's just so weak. Like, well, I can't believe they're getting down because of that kind of stuff. Like, and it could be anything. Are we going to choose to judge someone that's a couple steps behind? Or are we going to choose to come alongside someone? And again, we can't ramrod our way in, of course. You know, someone needs to let us in. But are we going to choose, God, if you give me the choice, would you help me, instead of judging people that I see a couple steps behind, help me to maybe be someone that can speak into their life and invest into them? Think about that. Is there someone in your life right now even that you could invest into? And again, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be all the time. It doesn't have to be like horribly time-consuming. But of the three relationships we discussed, friendship, receiving support, and mentoring someone, which area, just one, we're not here to overwhelm ourselves, which one area do you feel that you need to take a step in? And the reason I say take a step in, because these types of relationships typically don't just happen. Yes, of course, we need to ask God, would you bring the right people into my life? Friends, mentors, people I can mentor. But it also typically, these types of friendships, these types of relationships typically take intentionality, initiative, follow through, and follow up to build them. And I think later Pastor Julian is going to share one or two thoughts on that. But we'll move on. In the second half of Romans 16, Paul kind of shifts gears to share some final things. I don't know if you know this, but Romans 16 is the final chapter in Romans. And so he's going to share some final things that were important to his listeners, but also remain relevant for us today. So let's look at a few of them. Romans 16. He says, I urge you. Do you hear the desperation, the seriousness? And it's just like some of Paul's final words now. He's like, hey, I urge you, brothers and sisters, to watch out. What are we supposed to watch out for, Paul? For those who cause divisions and put obstacles in your way that are contrary to the teaching you have learned. Just stay away from them. For such people are not serving Jesus, but their own appetites. And by smooth talk and flattery, they deceive the minds of naive people. Paul's like, I've spent this whole letter giving you the truth. And that truth being only Jesus restores you to God. So stay away from anyone. Stay away from anyone who tries to teach you otherwise. And then, guys, there are many great things out there to help us stay connected to God. I mean, you name them. Preachers, videos, studies, guides, podcasts, books, apps, devotionals. I could just keep naming it. And there's so much more. And if they guide you to trust Jesus, and that's why you're restored to God, have a day, have at it, eat up as much as you can. But if they claim there are other ways to be restored to God besides Jesus, or that you can somehow do this thing on your own. It doesn't matter how good they sound or how appealing their message is. Oh, but that just sounds so good, PK. It's such an appealing. It doesn't matter if they teach you that there is another way to God, or if that you can do it on your own. It doesn't matter how good they sound, how appealing it is. Stay away. Paul's heart was to protect the people who are following Jesus. In fact, if I could paraphrase Paul, he'd say something like, based off this verse, I don't want you to be divided or have any obstacles be in the way of you and God. Here's my desire. I want there to be a bridge there instead. And the bridge is and always will be Jesus. No matter how much you hear this story, no matter how many years you've been in the faith, quote unquote, it will always be, the bridge is Jesus. It's Jesus. Why? Because he's the one that can change everything. He's the one that does it. No one else does. Not my grandma, not my wife, not my kids, not my pastor, not even myself. Jesus changes me. Jesus restores me to God. He's the one that does it. So Paul's like, stay away. There's going to be a lot of confusion out there. There's going to be a lot of good, appealing messages that are tempting to hear. But if they lead you away from Christ and into your own religion of, I can get to God if I stay away from this, if I do this good, stay away. If they try to lead you to another prophet or they try to lead you to someone else, stay away because it stays about this guy. Jesus changes everything. Paul shares something else that's relevant for us today. In fact, David, if you can put up the verse, next verse, Romans 16:19, there you go. If you can read this verse slowly to yourself. In fact, I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to read it twice. What stands out to you as you read this? Let God speak to you right now. I'm going to speak in a moment, of course, but what does this verse share to you as you read this slowly twice? Yeah, I don't know what God spoke to your heart, but I have to say, when reading this, I love this both and encouragement from Paul. He doesn't want us to be clueless. He wants us to be wise. And what's weird is I think sometimes people think that Christianity is a dumb faith, or it's kind of a stupid faith, where you just have to trust. And of course, don't hear this wrong. We need to trust and believe, but God gives us evidence and God wants us to be wise. This is not about pulling, something over our eyes and tricking us. Paul, in fact, it's part of the reason he probably says, stay away from people that try to trick you into something different. God wants us to stay wise, but listen, wise about what is good. You hear that? Wise about what is good. It's combining wisdom with a childlike faith. Yeah, he doesn't want us to, be clueless, but he also doesn't want us to be corrupted. Wisdom with a childlike faith. See, because wisdom and innocence are guardrails that keep us on track. Wisdom helps us understand what's good and how to act. Innocence helps protect us from being compromised. In fact, this could be a good request to ask God consistently. Maybe as you start your day or before you go into the meeting or before you have some big decision to make, whatever. That's obviously up to you, but this could be a good request. God, help me to be both wise and innocent. God, help me to be, in fact, repeat after me. God, help me to be both wise and innocent. Say it one more time with me. God, help me To be both wise and innocent. And again, that might be as you connect with God in the morning, or you connect with God at lunchtime, or you connect with God on your drive into work or drive home from work. This could be a good, consistent prayer to be asking God, help me to be both wise and innocent. There's one more thing Paul shares that I want to share with you as we close out Romans and finish off this series. Listen into Romans 16:20. It says this. And David, you can keep the verse up for a little bit. The God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet. The grace of our Lord Jesus be with you. You know, sometimes I think we fall into the misconception that we have to defeat our enemy on our own. And even though, so I want to ask you a question. Even though Satan, our enemy, is under our feet, help me. Who does the crushing? Does our feet do the crushing, or does he do the crushing? Who does it? God. It's his job to defeat Satan. Now, don't hear that wrong. We play a part. Our part is to trust Jesus and follow his lead. And here's the reason trust is so important when it comes to this kind of stuff. Trusting God weakens the enemy's influence and his power to mess with us. Because the enemy is trying, give into that fear. You have a reason to fear that person. Give into it. Or you know what? Give into that worry. You have a reason to worry. It's so uncertain out there. You just hear a bad story after bad story. Give into that worry. Or how about this one, doubt? It was one of the enemy's very first strategies. Literally, God says all these great things to Adam and Eve. He was connecting with Adam and Eve. God goes away for a little bit. The enemy comes in. And one of the first things he says is, did God really say that? So he tries to throw doubt darts. Or it could be a temptation dart. Like he knows it feels appeasing to you, but he knows it won't be good for you or someone else. See, trust, think of an on or off switch. When you turn it on, voila, the lights are on. When you turn it off, the lights are off. Trust is the switch. When we trust in God and turn that on, it weakens the enemy's influence and it helps us receive God's peace. When we choose to trust, his peace fills us. See, it's both and. We trust God to help us defeat Satan and every obstacle the enemy tries to put in our way, and we do our part through trust to follow Jesus. In fact, Jesus' peace is just another example of how he changes everything. You could literally have the same situation, but when you turn on that switch and start trusting God, the situation's still the same, but who's different? Who's different? We are. Same situation. But he fills us with his peace. It's a game changer. It can change everything. So we've come to the end of our Romans series, and we've seen how Jesus changes everything. So as before we go about our day and as we start to close our service, let's take a couple moments to connect with God. And I have a couple questions. There's even actually more questions in your notes if you want to take them home. But David, thank you for that. And you can, in the end, I want you to be guided the way you feel led to, but maybe this will help guide you. Number one, Jesus, you change everything. So I want you to ask, whether it's your first week here of the series or you've been here throughout the series, think of the last 4 months, because that's been about how long this series has been. How have you been changing me through your grace? Jesus, you do change everything. How have you been changing me? And then number two, Jesus, how can I draw near to you and respond to the changes you want to continue making in me. Jesus, how can I respond to you? How can I trust you? How can I cooperate with you as you continue to change what you want to do within me? So before Chris comes out, or as he's coming out, and as Pastor Julian comes up, why don't you take a moment or two just between you and God, whether it's the questions, they'll stay up on the screen, or if there's something else that hit your heart during this message, of course, talk to God about it. But guys, take a moment or two to connect with God right now. Maybe for some of you, it's God, help me to be both what? Wise and innocent. Thank you. One person listened to that. Now, just teasing. Love you guys. Connect with God.